Hi, hello there. We're back, and we shall continue our discussions on the very controversial topic about the Philippine, scenario and situation amidst the tensions and the interests of other countries into our um, properties. So, yeah, Senator Shahani. So, how do you think? Uh, why all of a sudden all this interest in our neighboring countries into the islands that was not really paid attention to by our own local government. I mean, this has been for centuries, since the 17th century, right? That the French has occupied the Spratlys, and then thereafter, the U.S. government has um, sort of been disinterested into the claims of the French, so that they have eventually abandoned it. And then there came the Japanese, who have also abandoned claims to the islands. And so I believe our officials have started to, stake ownership, declare some form of ownership into the islands as late as when was this, around 19 in the 1940s or 1930s, right? Or 19 thereabouts, until the time that your cousin, President Ferdinand Marcos, has officially come out with a law. Is it a law, or what was it?
PD,
Republic Act.
presidential decree.
Presidential decree declaring ownership of the island. And then your brother, former President Fidel Ramos, has furthered the strength of the basis for the declaration or the proclamation of the ownership. So, but how come now it's like the neighboring countries do not really, you know, it's like especially China, when everybody knows China is, bullying us about these two rich islands.
Well, it is true, and I hope that all of us Filipinos will pay attention to the issue of the West Philippine Sea, because I think for the first time in our diplomatic history, we are a major player in a global situation. China, we're now dealing with China, the USA, Japan, all of these big maritime powers, and we are in the middle of it. And so I hope that this issue will make us realize that we are a maritime power. We are a water power. We are not a land power. And that is our future. As remember what Freud said, biology is destiny for women. I also would like to say geography is destiny for the Philippines, because we are really a water country, and in the embrace of two huge bodies of water, the Western Pacific and then the South China Sea. So I think, I hope that this issue will really unite us, because our own survival in answering to the threats of China and also of America, or whoever will try now to encroach on our rights as a maritime power, as enunciated in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, is something which we must be able to defend. We must know our rights under the UN Convention. And so we have so much at stake, as we said before in the show, that we have fishing resources, we are the part of the Golden Triangle, we are the center of biodiversity in the world. So if that is it, then that is our status as a country. This is what gives us some kind of a class, you see, in the community of nations. And we should be able to defend it and to be able to treasure it. And our young people must be taught that we are a maritime country and we should be proud of it.
So, you did say earlier that we are primarily an archipelago and we are a watery nation. And actually, in support of that, we are the largest number of maritime workers in the entire world. And secondarily to that, it's more like the problem I see, which we already talked about a while ago, was the problem is the implementation of the UNCLOS, insofar as one country's complaint versus another, implies that the country about whom you're going to complain needs to agree to the arbitration. I found
that
that very strange.
Yeah, that's correct. No, but going back to the fact that we are the majority of the seamen in the world are Filipinos. No, and before the Spaniards came, before we were colonized, we were already traveling across the seas. In fact, there are historical evidence that our forefathers, the Austronesians, reached all the way to Madagascar in Africa. So that if you see the Malagasis, no, the people of Madagascar, they really look more Malay than African.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go there, and yet the ancient Filipinos traveled to Africa just by in bangkas, in boats, or in the balanghay.
Yeah, in the balanghay,
You see,
yes.
in the balanghay. So since you're a medical doctor, maybe there is that link, that link of our ancestors, of our
Genetics.
forefathers, no,
Yes.
with what has been really our life before. Because why should Filipinos be appreciated as some of the best seamen in the world? You know, I have asked this
Yeah,
because
yes,
having been an
Definitely.
ambassador, I have, if you're an ambassador, one of the things that you really look after are these seamen who might go into mutinies, who might
Yeah.
want to go against the captain of the boat. And I had to sort of help in a situation, and I was ambassador to Romania.
Okay.
And so I had to go up the ship, you know, and I had to talk to the captain and to the sailors, to the men. But then, luckily, that was resolved. Then I asked the captain, why do you like Filipinos to be on the ship? Because really, we're in demand. Well, first they said, one, Filipinos have very good interpersonal relations with each other. And if you're on a ship, you know, you're all
There's
alone
nowhere else to
there,
go.
nowhere else to go, no one else to talk to,
Yes.
except your kapwa kasama, no?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, yes,
one.
yes.
And secondly, of course, the Filipinos are personally clean. See, on a ship, you have to be clean. You have to wash. You have to, because you're just
I heard
in
about that.
very small space,
Yes.
no? And third, the Filipinos eat anything. They have no dietary taboos.
Yes,
And
yes.
when you're on a boat, you know, there's always a limited supply
Yes.
of what is available to eat and so on. But I'm sure that it's also because the Filipinos like going out into the sea. And they don't mind maybe being separated from their families because they know they'll always come back shore to see them again. You know, that's the life of the seafarer, you
Yes.
know. They come and go. And I think we are used to that. And which maybe people who live in continents, when they say goodbye to their family, parang wala na, no? They won't see them again. But in
Yeah.
our case, those of us who live on islands, we always know that we come and go, and traveling is a way of life for us. So I think that's why we make good seamen.
Yeah. Going back to UNCLOS, ma'am, how far in advance have we gone as far as getting into the final implementation of the agreements that the countries in our region have come up to, so that each country will eventually respect, and you know, like a code of conduct that in international relations, so that it, you know, there's peace in the area.
Well, the UNCLOS is really a very complicated piece of legislation. It's a United Nations convention. It's not just a law. It's like a constitution, you see. It's like an organic law. And you can imagine it took 10 years for it to see the light of day, no? And I think about 150 countries have already ratified it. In other words, have seen to it that their domestic laws are in harmony with the international law in principle. Now, but for us, for instance, an archipelago, to implement it, we have to do so many things. For instance, even just to draw the baselines, it really took nearly 12 years to do that in Congress, you know, because ang tagal, you know, you have to have a ship to draw, to measure, to make sure that what we're submitting is correct, no? Then secondly, if you're an archipelago, you have to ensure the rights of innocent passage. In other words, although I said that we have our 200-mile exclusive economic zone,
Yes.
that does not mean that other countries cannot traverse inside through the archipelago, because it is the right of innocent passage.
Yes.
They have a right. Let's say if someone is coming from the Middle East to go to Japan, some ships might have to go through our internal waters. And in order to do that, an archipelagic country like ours has to decide where are the entry points. And it's all water, so it's very difficult to set these boundaries in water. See, where can they pass? Where
We
can they
understand.
exit? And
So
then who will guard these entrances and exits? Because we will have to now, because we're allowing them into, let's say, the Batangas Bay, for instance, from where Doc Che is. Or they will be, and they might enter Laguna, well, not Laguna de Bay, because it is an enclosed lake.
It's a
No?
lake, yes.
But there are many entrances and exits in our archipelago. So we have certain duties to do that. So countries are not yet really ready to say this is what we want, because the situation is very fluid. Now, I think you have raised a very interesting point in that there is arbitration, there is the International Commission on the Law of the Sea, where we can bring our arguments. Let's say if China is claiming Scarborough Shoal or Bajo de Masinloc, which is even much closer to us, that is near Zambales,
Yes.
near Pangasinan, as a matter of fact. No? We could complain, but if the Chinese are not interested in bringing that complaint to the International Commission on the Law of the Sea, then we are inhibited from bringing it up. Neither can we do the same before the International Court of Justice, and then we can shout until we're blue in the face. But if the Chinese don't want that, then we have no recourse. So I think we need to do a lot of homework in bringing to the outside world why our rights under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea should be protected, and why we have a right to that.
now, ma'am, do you think this has also something to do with the renaming of the sea, which used to be the South China Sea? Now we claim that it's now renamed as West Philippine Sea. So do you think that has something to do with why China is, bullying
I don't
us?
think so, because any Filipino who has lived along a coastal town knows that the sea exists. And that sea is really part of the Philippines, because yung dagat is always kung may bagyo, may ulam, may lindol, you are very conscious of the closeness of the sea. Maybe because I was born by the sea, so I'm very
But what is the internationally recognized name of that body of water?
The West Philippine Sea really officially refers only to that part which the Philippines claims. Now, the South China Sea goes beyond the Philippines. Although that part, let's say, facing the Lingayen Gulf, is really the part of the South China Sea. But we have now renamed it the West Philippine Sea, which is also correct. You are right in saying that we Filipinos should be more aware that the South China Sea is partly the West Philippine Sea. And we should be conscious of that, because our lives are so related to the West Philippine Sea. I mean, Batangas, Mindoro, Palawan, the whole of the Ilocos coast, this all belong now to the West Philippine Sea. But beyond, let's say, beyond Mindanao, we cannot claim it, although China claims what they call the nine dash line, you see. And they claim practically the whole of the West Philippine Sea, which I think is unfortunate.
Okay, so we have more very controversial and interesting topics to talk about. And in the meantime, we shall pause for a break.